Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight on another Invest Newark webinar. We are very, very excited about today's agenda, where we will be demystifying the zoning and permitting process here in the city of Newark in hopes of expediting development throughout the city through our partnership between Invest Newark, which is also the city's land bank, as well as some of the great leaders in our city departments responsible for the permits and zonings necessary to rebuild the city of Newark. We have a very, very strong cast of leaders here, and we will be covering a lot of different aspects of the zoning and permitting process. Many questions will be answered during the course of the presentation. We ask that everyone put their questions in the Q&A segment of the Zoom, not in the chat, because that is where we will be at the end of the presentation, reading off the questions to make sure that they are answered. I see the Facebook Live has started, so I will reintroduce myself just in case. Again, my name is Burnell Hall. I am the President and CEO of Invest Newark, Newark Land Bank. We are covering zoning and permitting tonight, and we have a great cast that will cover a ton of questions that are frequently asked as it relates to building and getting permits to build within the city of Newark. With that, I will turn it over to Roger Johnson, who is the Senior Vice President of Real Estate here at Invest Newark, to begin our program. Roger.
Great, thank you, Brunel. And again, I want to welcome you all to our real estate webinar tonight. I am Roger Johnson, Senior Vice President of Real Estate Development, and I'm just excited because we got great guest speakers tonight. As mentioned, I believe it's important for the residents of Newark, as well as developers, to understand the process of applying and obtaining zoning permit approvals. A lot of people just don't know the process, right? As a homeowner or a new buyer, you might have asked yourself a question, when do I actually need to get a permit? When are zoning approvals actually required? You might also ask yourself, was the lead line replaced for the house I'm looking to buy? So those are just some of the questions that get asked a lot. So we have the right guests here tonight that can answer those questions. And so with that, I'll introduce our guests for this evening. From the Planning and Zoning Department, Chris Watson, the City Planning Officer, as well as from the Building Division, Renee Kalina, the Office Manager, and from the Department of Water and Sewer, Director Kareem Adeem. Now I'll hand it over to our host, Tracy Wingo, Assistant Vice President of Real Estate Development. Tracy.
Thank you, Roger, and good evening, everyone. As Roger stated, my name is Tracy Wingo. I am the Assistant Vice President of Real Estate Development here at Invest Newark. And I wanted to thank you for joining us today to learn more about the zoning and permitting process here in Newark, New Jersey. Without further ado, I will hand it off to Chris Watson with the city's Division of Planning and Zoning, Boards and Commission. Chris?
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Burnell and team at Invest Newark for having us come and have this kind of public discourse and demystifying the process in terms of planning and zoning and how you get to permits. So from my understanding is that the land bank is a way where we can get to residents in Newark land quicker than the conveyance process through the city. One my understanding is that a lot of these parcels are in R1 and R2 zones, allowing for single-family homes, allowing for two-family homes. In the permitting process, the municipal land use law allows for these permits to be administratively reviewed. And in order for us to do so, we will need site plans. So there's an application, a permit application that you uplift from the UCC office that Renee is going to talk about more of later. And within those permit jackets, it outlines the things that you would need coming to us should one of the projects you would like to bring to bear on that parcel exceed a 2-family home, and you're now going to a 3-family or a low-rise multi-dwelling unit, you will need site plan approvals. Those site plan approvals could either be from the planning board or from the zoning board. We do have a checklist in our application, and it starts off with a $300 certified check. We do ask for escrow based on the square footage of what you're trying to construct. And we have a list of what type of plans you would need, site plan, floor plans, elevations, lighting, landscape. And if through a zoning determination, based on what you bring in, we give you a zoning determination to let you know which board is going to hear your application. Whether or not you'll need an attorney will be determined on that zoning determination. You definitely need an attorney if you're going to the zoning board. Tracy, can you advance me, please? Advance the slide. In your application package, you will be provided a land use application fee structure that will tell you how much those variances will cost you. The city doesn't have a mechanism in place to waive fees, but what we do, and we encourage people to do, please advance, Tracy. What we do encourage potential applicants to do is to come in with us and do like a pre-conferencing before your application. Again, the process in terms of when you bring your application in, what decides which board you go in is basically whether or not you're trying to develop something that is permitted as of right, or whether or not you're variating from that. So variating from what is as of right calls for variances, and some of those variances, especially if it's a bulk density variances, sends you to the zoning board. The timeline for review is dependent again on the board that your application is sent to. Right now, we see applications coming to the planning board from application to board hearing being in a window of 6 to 7 weeks, 2 months being like the longest. And it all depends on you paying your fees, you having all of the relevant documents in order. If your application is denied, there isn't an appeal process per se. You can come back to the board with a completely different process, a completely different project, and we will be able to hear your application again. We do have planning board meetings twice per month, and with the volume of applications we're seeing that are being directed towards our zoning board, the zoning board is actually meeting sometimes 3 or 4 times per month. Full disclosure, because of the volume of applications we see to our zoning board, we're a bit backlogged per se. Your application will take 4 to 5 months to get to a hearing from the date of your application. Some of the parcels that was conveyed to the land bank through that Invest Newark is managing does exist in our landmark and historic preservation districts. And as such, prior to getting a permit, the Historical Landmark Preservation Board that meets once per month review your application to ensure that it's complementing to the neighborhood and it meets some sort of preservation guidelines. Those guidelines ask for your building not to be, in a sense, mimicking what is there, but to complement what is there. And it really helps inform like a more a project that lends towards the neighborhood character and without disturbing the milieu there. Could you advance to me, Tracy? One of the biggest things I recommend for any developer is that, please let's do a pre-submission conference. These pre-submission conferences are free, and we can have them as often as you would like to have them. And what we really do at this moment is allow for us to hear what is it you would like to build, and for us to give you advisement as to how we can bring a project that goes towards what is allowed towards the planning board. So we don't have to take the risk of going to a zoning board and ask for a variance that may not be granted. In terms of rehabilitation of property that is on the land bank, my understanding is that most of these properties are 1-family homes, single-family homes. And again, up to a 2-family home is a permitted administrative process that we could sign off on. For those who would like to convert some of those one-family residences into two-family residents, there are some conditions you will have to meet, especially around parking. And as long as you meet those conditions, again, we could administratively approve those. You will need a ground-up permit always. But you wouldn't need a board approval for those permits should you be constructing a single or two-family homes. And again, not triggering any variances in terms of established setbacks and parking requirements and sidewalks and trees and transparency and so forth. The Landmark and Historic Preservation Committee, as long as those homes are within that particular district, they do ask that if your rehabilitation is only on the, sorry, my dog is barking. If those rehabilitation is on the interior, then you get what we call a certificate of, we sign off on it, a certificate of no effect. However, if the changes are going to be visible from the street, there are some standards that the Landmark and Historic Preservation asks for you to uphold, and that is replacing materials with like materials. We always ask that if you had clapboard and you need to do some work, replace that clapboard with clapboard. There are some instances where within the historic and landmark preserve districts, there are homes that have siding per se. I know of one case now where there's a fire there, and the homeowner was concerned that the Landmarks and Historic Preservation Board would have forced them to change that siding and bring back what was there. Well, no, they don't. They understand that as a new homeowner, you bought it with this condition, so they will allow you to do the renovations in the condition that you have bought the home in. I think that's about it. The process could seem daunting, but we through a pre-submission conference, we can erase some of the misunderstanding around the process. So I think the biggest takeaway I would want the audience tonight to take is that call us, meet with us. We are accessible to you. We are here to give advisement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Next, we will have Director Kareem Adim with Newark's Department of Water and Sewer. Director?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kareem Adim. I'm with the Department of Water and Sewer Utility. Can we move the slide? Next, one more time. Just want to help everybody out. Normally, when you're purchasing a property in the city, and it's been abandoned for a while, abandoned meaning vacant, you may, some steps that you should take. One of the first steps is you need to have a licensed plumber verify the water and sewer line, the condition that is in, if it's usable. A lot of properties have been vacant for 5 or 10 years or more. That sewer line could have sealed up, or that water line could have sealed up. So it doesn't mean that, or at one time or another, that water line could have leaked over the last 5 or 10 years, and the city went out there and they disconnected it off the water main. So you want to be sure that you have a licensed plumber verify if those utilities still work, right, for your property. Normally, if you're doing some type of development or remodeling that has to go through the zoning and planning board, your application would come through the water department too. So we have a review. We have a review that we followed Mr. Watson's office. If not, if it's a property that you may just be remodeling and you need to come to the water department, again, you can set up a meeting with us at our Central Avenue office, and you can email us at water and sewer. It's one word, water, A-N-D sewer, at ci.newark.nj.us. And we normally meet with the engineers or architects that's doing your property. So it's like a pre-meeting, just to go over some things that they need to do before they design or start rehabbing your project. If you're doing a demolition, you would want to meet with us too, just to understand whether it's a demolition or you're looking to develop a vacant lot. You may want to meet with us first too, your engineer, right? And I say your engineer because I can meet with a developer, and if he don't get the right information, he'll pass it on to his engineer, and it'll be a little confusion. We like to meet with the engineers, and the developer can be present, right? So that engineer and the developer can get the same information at one time, right? So they can expedite your project. The water and sewer department will not be an obstacle to you moving forward with developing your project or rehabbing your existing project. The only obstacle is, not meeting with us and understanding what you need to do. But if it's a vacant lot, you need to meet with us to understand where the future water connections may be or sewer connections may be for your upcoming property. And also potential to find out if there are any existing water lines that may need to be disconnected. We don't allow you to reuse lines, water or sewer lines at vacant lots. However, the permitting process at the Department of Water and Sewer is 1 day. You come in with the right information, we give it to you, you can get your permit that same day. Same day, real time. Again, we won't be an obstacle. Can we stroll up on the PowerPoint just a little bit? Is it something? No, go back, I'm sorry. New construction properties, again, you normally go through the Office of Planning and Zoning, and they'll forward us your application. And normally we reach out to your engineer and we send stuff back to the Office of Planning and Zoning if we have comments. Buying a property from the land bank, again, a vacant property, I couldn't tell you offhand, and Invest Newark couldn't tell you offhand if that water or sewer line is still active. You have to come in and request that information from the water department. And normally it's not our City Hall office, it's our maintenance office at 239 Central Avenue, right across from NJIT. The water tap permit and inspection fees for an existing property that you may have to replace the water or sewer line, you wouldn't be getting a new installation charge. You would be getting an inspection fee and a renewal fee. So those are like very minimal. Offhand, we got to look at the property and see how many lines that you may be renewing. But the inspection fee, I could tell you, is all the same. It's about $700. The renewal fee varies on what type of line you may be increasing. If there's no meter at your property, again, you may want to reach out to the water department again, and it's good to, to send us an email and have your engineer ready to come and meet with us, whether it's virtually or in person if we need to, but virtually seems to work a little well right now. The water department or the City of Newark doesn't own any lateral connections, whether water or sewer, that leads into your property. So the only lines that the water and sewer own are in the street. So I'm gonna just throw up 2 streets. On Central Avenue, which runs east and west, the city owns this water main that's in the middle of Central Avenue that runs east and west, and it owns the sewer main on Central Avenue that runs east or west. Any of those lateral lines that run north or south that come off of that sewer main is owned by the property owner. The property owner owns it. It's the property owner's responsibility. It's not the water department's responsibility. If you're on Broad Street runs north and south. The city owns the water mains that run north and south on Broad Street, and the sewer mains that's on Broad Street that runs north or south. Any of those service lines that may run east or west on either side of Broad Street that's feeding your property is the responsible of the property owner or homeowner. And you'll be responsible with that. We do come out and do property verifications at no cost. The city has launched the lead service line replacement program. You can go on to the city's website, NewarkLeadServiceLine.com, NewarkLeadServiceLine.com. And on there, you can type in the address and you can see if at one time or another, if this property was active, if the city has changed that line already. So if the city has changed that line before it became vacant, I mean, that information will be on there. If it's not on there, then that means you need to reach out to us so we can, do a little research to find out the status that we may know on records. That we're not confirming that that line is in use or available for you to use. We'll just tell you that we didn't replace it, or if we replaced it, or if we replaced part of it because it's vacant, or we replaced one part of that line. We'll be able to tell you that. It is the responsibility. It was a city ordinance in 2019, September of 2019, that says prior to transfer of deeds, the water line needs to be replaced by the property owner, but it exempts the city from the city's vacant properties that the city may later on sell. However, if we've already replaced a portion of that line, then you may only be on the hook for the portion that we did not replace. And normally, because we're going block by block and we're doing all the lead service lines, right, from the city's water main, remember, Broad Street, we're on Broad Street, the city's water main go north and south. We'll probably replace that line at a house, right, that we worked with EHD to get access to. We may have replaced it from the water main to the curb, right? And we cut it off. So we'll be able to provide that information to you. And again, you'll reach out to us at, our city's website, water and sewer at ci.newark.nj.us. And it doesn't cost anything to reach out to us. Give us a couple of days to get back with you with the information. Normally within between 48 and 72 hours, we'll have information back to you that you may have requested for a meeting or some additional information about your property. The lead service line program is still ongoing. And if it's, you may also, when you go on leadserviceline.com, see that property may be scheduled to be replaced before June of 2021, right? That doesn't mean you bought the property last week that we're going to go out there and put a line in that property you bought because it's still on the list until June 2021. It means that property is still on the list to be scheduled to be replaced by June, the end of June of 2021. So because you bought it last week, don't mean we're going to stop what we're doing and come over there and put a line in. It means that it's still on the list for us to get to it by June of 2021 or any date that's on that list. And again, I encourage you for anything you do to have a licensed plumber, look at your water and sewer line. You don't want to go and renovate a property, put all the money into it, right? Get this water department comes and put a meter in, right? The water works. And now, guess what? The sewer line is no good. You got raw sewer in your basement, right? So, that licensed plumber would come in, and it's important that you have him camera that sewer line until where it goes into the city's sewer line. That's those sewer line, and provide you with that video that he certified the condition of that sewer line. Not that it collapsed. Not that, you bought the property and it collapsed. He would show you with the video, right? You're paying for it, that the sewer line collapsed or it's full of tree roots. And it's full of tree roots, he should be able to open the line back up. He need to replace the line, he need to re-clean and reline the line, or just do heavy cleaning for you. We do find out that the sewer lines are the most expensive, right? Because they're deep and they create the most problems in older homes because they haven't been used in a decade or more. and the city's doing sewer replacement, sewer cleaning of its sewer mains, and sometime that vacant house will get sealed up, right? Because the sewer line is not in use. And the part of that is not to have rodents coming in and out of vacant properties through the sewer lines, getting into the system. I think that about sums it up for water and sewer. Remember, the permit fee is an easy process. We will not be an obstacle. If all the paperwork is good, your permit is given the same day. Yes, do you want me to answer that question? Yes, there is a list of licensed plumbers that the city has. We will provide that to you. These are licensed plumbers that we know that's local in the city, that do work daily in the city, that can do those inspection verifications and cammering your sewer. Again, vacant property that I'm gonna rehab or renovate, same word, right? I would like a licensed plumber to come in and camber that sewer line, right? To make sure it's working. Flush it out, everything. That's one of the biggest costs that we see with the renovation of properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. And I would like to take this time to thank you and your department for all the wonderful work that you all have been doing. And as Mr. Hall mentioned in the beginning, we will be doing a Q&A session after all of the panelists have presented. But Director, I just wanted to ask a follow-up question for you on behalf of the residents of the city. To date, are you aware of how many, offhand, how many lead lines have been replaced to date?
Yes, thank you for that, Tracy. As of today, we've visited a little over 21,000 homes, right? That we've actually visited to abate the lead service line. And so of the 21,000 homes we actually had to do replacement on 18,198 as of yesterday. Today numbers wouldn't be in until 12 o'clock tonight, but as of yesterday, we replaced 18,198.
Wow, that is great. Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And lastly, we would, last but not least, we will hear more about the permitting and building process from Ms. Renee Kalina.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tracy. I'm just going to piggyback a little bit off of what Chris was saying in regards to submitting any permit package, whether it be new construction, renovation. The pre-submission conference is always recommended. Like I had said earlier, that every situation is unique as far as whether it be new construction or renovation as to what would be needed in that package, depending on the size of the lot and what kind of building you're building. I mean, that basically sums up this whole checklist. It would be building, electric, plumbing, fire, 2 sets of signed and sealed drawings. Again, would be unique to what kind of construction you were doing. You can slide it along, Tracy, please. Delays in the permit process. Anything missing prior approvals. Our prior approvals would consist of water and sewer receipts if you are reconnecting to the water or sewer. It would be disconnects if you are demoing a property. Also, a prior approval would be Passaic Valley. They are our water and sewer commission. They need an application that is completed and signed off before we can release permits from this office. Something else that would delay your permitting process would be if your applications are not completed. I believe Tracy did include a reference to our building application. So each and every one of these individual lines need to be completed. Work site location, owner and fee, license number, contractors, cost of work, very, very important. Responsible person in charge with phone numbers that we can reach somebody if we needed more information to complete this package. Thank you, Tracy. Fees, we have a fee schedule. It is also included in the slide. There is a minimal fee for any permit, which is a review fee of $58. Building permitting fees are estimated upon the cost of the permit. Your electrical, fire, and plumbing are estimated on your outlets, your fixtures, how many to that nature. Your project items will require for every every situation is unique and would be handled on a case-to-case basis. And again, we should have a pre-submission conference, and I believe our phone number is attached to our slide. Tracy? Yes, there it is, the 973-733-3957. Or you can also email herreraj@ci.newark.nj.us. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And at this time, these are all of the panelists who spoke this evening. These are their address as well as the phone number for their department and the email. At this time, we will open it up for questions, and we will be answering those questions that have been submitted in the Q&A module. So if the panelists don't mind all turning on the camera, and we will address questions only being submitted through the Q&A. The first question we have received, will the PowerPoint be available for downloading? Yes, we are recording this presentation. It is being streamed live on Facebook. And with this pre-recording, we will submit it on the investnewark.com website. So following this presentation, it will be uploaded and anyone can view at their own convenience. And I see some of these questions have been answered, so I apologize if I'm being repetitive. Is there a list of licensed plumbers? The director has already answered that, yes, and that will be made available to all. Should the applicant actually own the property prior to submitting any of these applications, or is a purchase contract good enough to get the process started?
Tracy, I'll tackle that. So we do that parallelly. So the owner of the property needs to sign off on the application. So the developer can bring an application to us, and as long as the city signs off as the owner, knowing that that property will be conveyed to that developer or purchaser, we do accept those applications. It's something standardly done in the office. You don't have to wait until, in a sense, you have your deed. But with the city signing off or Invest Newark signing off as the owner of that property, we will accept your application and process it accordingly.
Thank you. Director, I believe this question is for you. How do I know if the land bank property has had the lead line replaced? You're on mute. Thank you.
Again, good question. Again, you can visit newarkleadserviceline.com and type in the address and see what the results that come up. And if not, again, you can have your engineer or your licensed plumber visit. Your engineer can meet with us, or your licensed plumber can go visit the location and do an inspection.
Thank you. And for anyone who did not catch that email address, it has been placed in the chat. Next question. If you've just bought a building, how do you tell if the water supply line is made of lead? I don't know if that's something you previously.
The city, if you just bought a building, most large, well, lead service lines only come in the size of a quarter or a 50-cent piece. Every now and then you'll find a Susan B. Anthony, maybe a silver dollar size, but that diameter is like a quarter to a 50-cent piece. Large buildings are serviced by ductile iron, cast iron, or like that. We don't normally see a lead service line bigger than about a 50-cent piece. However, we do provide free lead service line inspections, and you can reach out to us at waterandsewer@ci.newark.nj.us or call 973-733-6303. If you got access to the building, you can schedule for a free pipe inspection, lead service line inspection. It's free.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Oh, here is one. For ground up construction, do you recommend doing the water tap and inspection fee review prior to applying for the building permit?
Yes.
Well, again, you're gonna for a ground up inspection, you're gonna provide those your plans to zoning and the planning department. They'll forward them to us. During that time, we'll go over what you're supposed to do and give you the proper fees. You'll have to pay them before the permits are issued anyway. So the normal process would be to submit your stuff to planning and zoning. You can have a pre-inspection, a pre-meeting with us, like Renee was saying. All departments offer pre-meetings. We just want to make sure we're meeting with your architect or engineer, not just a developer. We want to make sure that meeting is very productive, that when you leave out of the meeting, your engineer and you understand the same message, what needs to be provided back to us.
And can you give an example of parking requirements from SFH to multifamily housing, single family housing to multifamily?
I just put that in the chat, Tracy. So it's 1 space per dwelling unit, except if you live 1,200 feet away from commuter rail, light rail, or a subway station. If you're within that 1,200 feet radius from those services, parking is not required.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Is the expectation that only current Newark residents can purchase property in the land bank? There is a land bank website. If you go on Invest Newark, that will direct you to the land bank website where you can review all of the policies, and then there will be an email address where you can submit any questions that you have regarding the land bank. Is there a way to determine the proper building classification online, or do we have to contact zoning? And how long does it take to find out?
Well, Tracy, I know for all of the properties that has been given to the land bank, we have given those uses for the property. So purchasers will be able to know what it's zoned for, where it's zoned, and what the legal use is. We've already given that information. So, and if the information is not readily available, they can call the zoning office. We can tell you what it's zoned for, but we do ask that you apply for a legal use letter, which is $25, and we give it to you within 2 to 3 days.
Perfect, thank you. Last question, can the owner submit his or her permit application, or does a general contractor have to submit it?
No, the owner or the general contractor can submit the permit. Either or.
Great, thank you. At this time, I don't see any other questions. If you do have a question, please submit it in the Q&A module. And just, I would like to mention again that this presentation is recorded and will be made public and posted on the Invest Newark website for all of the individuals' email, department address, as well as phone numbers.
And Tracy, I just saw a question come in asking whether or not submissions could be done virtually. It can. You go to www.newarkehd.com and follow the links where we have our online application portals. However, we do ask that when you do an online submission, just because New Jersey municipal land use law hasn't changed yet, that you do submit physical plans stamped by your architect, because we need that for our records. But yes, you can submit digitally.
Thank you. Appreciate you answering that, Mr. Watson. We have another question. What inspections are required for new buildings?
As far as permitting, I mean, talking about the permitting inspections.
It doesn't say specifically, but yes, let's address that.
So you would have building, electric, plumbing, and fire.
Thank you. If there are any further questions, please post those in the Q&A tab. Okay, there isn't any more questions. There aren't any questions. What about energy inspection? That was a question we just got in. Is there a requirement for energy inspection?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. In order to streamline questions, if you could post them in the Q&A module, please. I'm seeing a few coming through in the chat. If I am opening a child care center and have the CCO, how do I obtain the building code?
Building code for. I'm not understanding the question.
If you don't mind being a little more specific for the individual who just posted the question in the Q&A, please.
Would it mean a certificate of occupancy, or like it might be that they're asking how do they get a CO, a certificate of occupancy?
It says if I have the CO, how do I obtain a building code? They said on my CO, the building code is not listed.
I'm still not clear what they mean by building code.
Okay.
Other
For
than
that question, if you don't mind just emailing or reaching out to the building department directly, they'll be able to further assist you. How long does it normally take for inspectors to inspect the property once requested?
up to 3 days.
What building code does Newark use? For example, IBG.
It's IBC 2018 or IRC 2018.
Thank you. Is there a specific list of required inspections relative to each of the disciplines for building, electric, plumbing, fire, etc.?
Yes, there is.
And where could individuals find that list?
They can email the email that's attached to this, and we would gladly email that out to them.
Thank you. Okay, and I'll do one final call for any questions to be posted in the Q&A module. Does Invest Newark have relationship with lenders? If so, are there any advantages applying for loans from them? Mr. Hall, I don't know if you want to address this question.
Yes, we will be referring people, but you know, we cannot, as a quasi-government agency, endorse a lender, nor do we ourselves act as a bank of any sort. So it'll really be just a referral, the same way the city just refers, you know, licensed plumbers, as mentioned earlier. From there, you know, the individual will need to apply to the lender that they feel comfortable with, and you know, take it from there themselves.
Thank you. Another question we've received: how long do you have to finish new construction? These policies are outlined on, once again, the land bank website. If you go to investnewark.com, you can, it will be redirected to the land bank website. These policies are outlined, and they do differ depending on which homeownership program you are applying to. Are special inspections done by the city, private inspection, or a private inspection company?
By the city.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Roger, did you want to address the last question? Oh, okay. Sorry, they gave me a notice. Can you clarify how inspections of soil erosion or stormwater plans work in Newark?
Not I. I think you.
So, your soil erosion and your stormwater management plan should be submitted by your engineer. However, you can read the most updated stormwater ordinance on the city's code. You could type it to the city's municipal code. However, when you submit your stuff to the planning and zoning board, you can have a pre-meeting with the engineering department that review soil erosion and they work with the Department of Water and Sewer to review stormwater plans. But most engineers are familiar with the stormwater management ordinance for the state and the city, and submitting stormwater management plans. And BMP is the best management practices for those. Soil erosion, the city engineers will review those plans, and we work with the Hudson Soil Erosion Agency to make sure that you're in compliance with what you need to do.
Thank you. And Director, we have a follow-up question for you. Is the storm and sewer on the same line?
No, depends on your property. That's a great question. So the stormwater, although the city in certain areas of the city is a combined sewer, every area in the city is not combined. What that means is in some areas of the sewer, the storm of the city, in some areas of the city, the storm and the sanitary go into the same line. In majority of the city, the storm line is separate and the sanitary line is separate. So again, that's why it's very important that your engineer comes in and meet with the water department, the engineering department, just a pre-meeting, sending the email. Most engineers, thank you for that. This question is going to lead into something else. Most engineers will send a utility request, utility verification or utility request letter to the available utilities from the water and sewer department that's in the area for a new construction to connect to. So, it's like $100 fee. They send like a will serve letter. It's a will serve letter, and we'll tell you all the water and sewer pipes that we won't show it to you. We just provide your engineer what's available to him for him to use when he's designing a project.
Perfect. Thank you. Before I read the next question, I do want to preface, for any land bank specific questions, please visit the nlbinfo@investnewark.org. That will address any specific program, policy, and RFP questions. But a question for Mr. Hall. For vacant land purchased from the land bank, does the developer have to share profits when they sell it?
That really depends on the program. Any program that is Newark centric or slated for Newark residents, they have certain deed restrictions that require people to live in those properties for a certain amount of time. And if they move before that restriction, or I'm sorry, that timetable has expired, then there are some windfall provisions associated with those properties. But then there are other properties or programs that are preference for Newark residents and developers, and those are open-ended, and it's really up to the developer to decide, you know, what they build in accordance with the city plans, and the profits will go back to the developer in totality. So it really depends on the program. The Newark-centric or homeownership-centric programs will have deed restrictions, but the programs that are specific for contractors and developers will not. And again, that information is available on the Land Bank website. If you click on purchase a property, you'll see the 6 programs, and there'll be summaries of how those programs work. There's also an ability to download all of the Land Bank's policies, so you can get the full detail on what those restrictions look like and what triggers them.
Thank you. Does the city or county need to inspect installed soil erosion measures prior to start of construction?
Yes, so it is, again, you'll be issued a soil erosion permit, and the city works with the bi-county agency to come out and do that inspection.
Thank you, Director. Are there any tax rebates for certain types of construction? For example, low-income housing? Roger, do you want to answer this one?
So the answer is yes. The specifications on how that works are going to be on under the Economic and Housing Development Department's web portion of the city's website. You know, we won't go into specificity around how that will be triggered per development, but that information is available on the city's website and Department of Economic and Housing Development.
Thank you. Again, if there are any questions, please post it in the Q&A module, not the chat. Okay. If there's nothing further, as I mentioned before, this will be made available on Invest Newark's webpage. This has also been pre-recorded. It has been recorded on Facebook Live and will be made available at the conclusion of this webinar. And I want to personally thank the participants, and I will pass it off to Mr. Hall.
I just want to echo your comments, Tracy. Thank you, Director Kareem Adeem, Chris Watson, who runs planning, Renee in the building department. This is invaluable information. And I specifically want to thank all of the participants tonight for taking time out of your schedule to learn more about the zoning and permitting process here in the city of Newark. We're excited about your new developments, and you know, this information, as has been said a couple of times tonight, will be available on the Land Bank's website. You will be able to hear this at your leisure and download the presentation so that you can refer to it. We wish you all great success in all of your future development and real estate dealings with the city. I want to thank my guests. I want to thank our wonderful host, Tracy, for doing a wonderful job, and all of the team at Invest Newark for teeing this up. And with that, good night.
Good night, Brunel, and thanks for having us.
Right.